الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين. Dear sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum. We have been talking for the past few nights about the issue of faith. The challenging thing, the main challenge when talking about faith is that definitely the audience will be at different levels of faith. And that's in their personal practice and also their intellectual research that they're doing. So some of the things I say tonight may not directly affect you, but they are nonetheless very important. And I'm sure for many, it would be not just relevant, but very important. Tonight, I hope that we will have an honest discussion about some of the things that you'd find very rarely to be spoken about. If you remember, a few nights ago, we talked about the eclipse of God, and afterwards we talked about whether faith is rational or not. I gave an argument for the existence of God in the second night, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, and you've heard it so many times in different debates, in different lectures, in different theology classes. Of course, it has many different forms, but the one I mentioned was one of the ones which is very difficult to argue against. And that is the question, why is there something rather than nothing? And we talked about this, and I said that even though you do not have to intellectually accept this, but denying it would have certain consequences which are not easily ignorable. We can't ignore them. It's not like not accepting that argument would be more rational than accepting it. But if you remember that night, I said that there is a huge gap from proving the existence of God using that argument and then believing in a God that hears your prayer, that expects you to do certain things, that has so many obligations set upon you. It is one thing to say that there is more to this universe than our minds can grasp, and to say that if you want your son, for example, to become religious, then recite this prayer during delivery. This is a huge gap here. How do we go from that one to this would be the topic of tonight's talk. There are many people who have no problem with this universe having a cause. You may all have heard Einstein's quote. He said, I have no problem with believing in this, that there is more to this world than my mind can grasp. In that sense, he says, I am religious. There are many profound atheists who say that we don't have any problem with this kind of religion or this kind of God. Yes, the first cause. But then how do you go from that to saying that, okay, there's this God who sends messengers, who cares about what you do in your room when you're alone? Not just that, but what you say in your heart, cares about that. How do you go from that argument, why is there something rather than nothing, to saying that there's a hell after you die, and let me tell you the names of the trees in that hell. It has certain levels, it has certain stairs. You can have the penthouse in hell, you can have this and that, and there's this tree and this drink, and you'll drink this, and afterwards that will happen and this will happen. It's very clear that there's a huge gap. Many of us as religious people, what happens is that as soon as we have that first argument for the existence of God, we're like, okay, God is proven, perfect. Then we accept everything. As if like, in order to accept God, you need one argument, the rest just accept it. And we make no difference. We put no difference between the certainty we have about that and all the other things that a set of belief in religion brings in your life. Like as if that is as certain that there is a first cause, that we are certain, for example, about the details of how one should behave. The details of ahkam, or the details of jurisprudence, as if they're both at the same level of certainty. If it was as easy as this, then you wouldn't see so many honest people struggling to make this leap. You know, someone like Einstein, even though many religious want to claim it their own, but he did not believe in one of the religions as we know them. He believed in something more than this universe, but he said, the nature of this, I have no idea. And you can't say this person's not honest. I mean, you can, but then that wouldn't have any value, because what would be the basis of your judgment? And he's not just the only one. There are so many people. There are schools of thought who believe in the first cause, but say that's about it. To know more, it requires evidence that we can't have. Just by saying that this entity that you now call God is beyond the reach of your mind, then you're saying that your mind has no way to know it. Then what is all these details in your books? Where did you get it that he hears your calls? How do you know that this first cause to the universe cares about you? This first cause to the universe, you come to the mosque, say one prayer, and all of a sudden it changes the plan? What happens here? Now, for many of you, you might be convinced with the arguments that religion provides. Because it's not like all these years the religious scholars have been doing nothing. No, we've had theologians, and they've had so much time on their hand, and they've produced so many arguments. And a lot of people are convinced with them. If you're among the people who's convinced, then maybe the rest of the talk would not have much for you. But I want to talk to those who are not convinced. Or maybe they're not convinced with all the arguments produced by the theologians. Because I'm sure there are so many out there who are in this state. They feel like their intellectual honesty doesn't allow them to agree with certain arguments. They feel like something's been sold to them that is not as strong as they want it to be. Sometimes they accept it because this is their religion of their parents, this is the faith they were brought up in, because this is the faith that their culture is promoting. How difficult would it be to go against the faith of your parents, to your family? So we are really inclined towards accepting arguments, even though there's this parts of our mind that says this doesn't really convince my heart completely. Please recite the salawat. So let me make clear that I am in no way trying to undermine those arguments. If someone is convinced with them, that's lovely. I just want to talk to those who are not convinced. To those who follow the first argument, they say, okay, there's a first cause, but then they come to second level and they see there's so many religions. There's Islam, there's Christianity, there's Judaism, and they each offer a version of this first cause that we talked about. And it's not just these Abrahamic religions, there's even Buddhism. Buddhism also in a way accepts with that first cause, has no problem with it, and in some of the claims it has, it's actually more humble. It doesn't say like I'll give you the exact information about everything that happens. No, it just says that's that. There's a way to connect to it. This is the way. So why not choose that? Why choose Islam? Why choose Christianity? Why choose Buddhism? Why choose any of these? Or why choose one at all? But there are so many people who say, well, that's it. I know there's a first cause, but that's about we can get. That's about we can know. The rest is just speculations. Right? I'll agree with that. I'll be admiring the greatness of it. I'll be amazed by it, that this universe is so great, is beyond the reach of my mind. But if I want to pursue one of these religions, then that means that I'm stepping in an area which is very likely to commit an error. You must have heard this from the atheists, that they say the difference between us and you is only one God, right? They say we don't believe in the God of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, we don't believe in Zeus, we don't believe in the God of Buddhism. And as a Muslim, you don't believe in any of those, you just believe in Allah. Or the Christians, they don't believe in Allah, they don't believe in God of Judaism and all of that, they just believe in God of Christianity. So the atheist looks at us and says, you're atheist to the God of all other religions. And that doesn't get the peace of you when you're sleeping at night. No, you're completely at peace. So the difference between us and you, the atheist says, is only one God out of all these thousands of gods that have been worshipped throughout history. And why is it that you're holding on to this one God? Why is it that the Muslims do theology and believe in Allah, Christians do theology and they reach that Christianity is true, and Jewish communities do theology and believe that the Jewish faith is correct? Well, that just shows that you're not honest in your theology. If you read, for example, the works of some of the atheists, they say there's no such a thing as theology. It shouldn't even be a field. So not only you're undermining all these other gods, but the God you have chosen, well, statistics shows me that it has a very high chance that it's just because your parents had that faith. So this first cause that we proved, going from that to a religion, to a faith, is a huge leap, is a huge gap there. And unfortunately, there are not so many people who talk about it. I've been meaning to do a research on this, and there's so little written on this. There's so little spoken about this. It's very difficult to find anything about this. And I'm amazed that you see, like you look at these debates on YouTube. I have to do this, but I have to know what's going on. So I watch a lot of debates by Christians, by Muslims, by Jews. You see that when they're talking about God, the first cause I mean, they are so philosophically accurate They try their best to have their arguments very nice, detailed, they've discussed it. But as soon as it comes to the details of religion, it's like all of that is gone. Like they go from that level of intellectual honesty, when it comes to the details of religion, it's like they're a different person. So when they're proving God, the Muslim and the Christian and the Jew, they're saying the same thing, but when it comes to details of the religion, it's like they're different people. Well, if philosophy is so easy to follow, if arguments are so easy to produce, then how come at a certain level you all say different things? It's like you believe this, you believe that, and you believe the opposite. If rational arguments are so easy to produce, then how come when it reaches the details of faith, you all disagree? So, this is the topic of tonight. It's a very important discussion, at least for many people, and I will try to be honest, not claim things that are difficult to prove, and still give a good answer. And please bear in mind that in a few years I might look at this talk and laugh at myself. This is something that we should be always reading about, studying about. You know, understanding this universe, understanding our faith should be a journey, at least for those who care, that continues as long as we are alive. You know, we hear the stories of some of the scholars in their 70s and 80s who become ill, they couldn't read, and they were so much in love with learning that they would hug their books. We've had so many of these scholars in Islam and in other faiths. You know, if this is really an important matter, then we should always read more, we should always study more, we should be honest. So what I'm saying right now, I'm being very humble about it. This is what I know at this stage, and I hope it helps some people because it has helped me, and I know a few people that this has helped. So I'm not trying to claim that yes, I have hacked this, the issue of religion tonight will be over, like some of the philosophers who said we're going to finish philosophy, like I did it, all the thinking that needs to be done in the world, in this book you can find it. No, this is very important. You know, some people come and talk about theology as if they know everything with details of it, like they've mastered this universe. Like they think they're the possessors of truth. I don't think being a Muslim means that we own the truth. Being a Muslim means that we're seekers of truth. Right? If we think that with a few arguments, with a few books we read, like we read theological instructions, we read philosophical instructions, now we can't prove anything. Now we know how many levels are in hell, how many levels are in the paradise, and anyone who doesn't believe in this because they haven't read this single book. I think that is not honest. I think that is arrogant, and I think that has nothing to do with the spirit of Islam. I think a Muslim should be honest about their faith, about things they can prove, and I think a Muslim should have an ongoing search for truth till the last moment of their life, no matter what it brings. You know, like, the best way to show your children that the religion you believe in is not strong is if you get scared when they ask you questions, or when they start reading certain books. I've seen this among my relatives. The guy starts picking a book of one philosopher, they get so scared. I'm like, that's the best evidence you're giving to that child that your religion is so weak that if he reads one book, it's over. If we really believe in God, if we really believe that He is Al-Hadi, the one who guides, then what are we afraid of? What are we scared of? Isn't the more truth we seek, the more closer we get to God if God is Al-Haq, if God is the truth? So I don't think Muslims should be afraid of the truth, no matter what it brings. If there are certain parts, maybe within the details of what we already believe in, that we realize it's wrong, who cares? Leave it aside. God is the truth. At the end of the day, that is our duty. That is the only commitment we have to truth. Religion is there to get us to God. So if at some point we get so committed to our religion that we get scared of people searching, of people studying, then that means that we haven't understood our religion correctly. Where does it say in the Quran that stop your children from reading? Isn't Quran filled with all these phrases that says, why are you not thinking? Why are you not looking? There's so many of this. It says, go and read. Go and study. Go and search. Go and think. Go and think. Why are you not thinking? But the way we are is like, well, this is it. Stop thinking. Stop thinking. This is it. Stop thinking. Right? What is that book you're reading? What is that program you're watching? Stop it. Stop it. Look at the confidence of God and how scared we are sometimes. I told you the story of, in our Q&A session, I told you this person who was asked in an interview, Ricky Gervais, when did you leave God? He says, I was 13 and I was reading the Bible. My elder brother came into the room and said, what are you reading? I said, I'm reading the Bible. And my older brother said, oh, do you believe in God? And my mom said, Bob, stop it. And he said, at that point, I knew my mom's hiding something. If this religion is so easy to shake that if my brother talks to me, I'll have to leave it, I can't continue believing in it, then I don't want it. But this is not how religion is. This is not how Quran is. Quran says, go and study. Go and read, go and think. There's that verse, beautiful. It says, good for the one who listens to all different opinions and chooses the best one. You're really not doing Islam any favor if you haven't heard other opinions, right? Because then it's not the best, it's the only one you know. It says, Quran says itself, that good for the one, good on the one who goes and listens to all different opinions and picks the best. You know, one of the things they say about Quran is that Quran is a miracle. Quran is the miracle of the Prophet, right? And of course, again, this is one of those things that many of us we say, and if someone asks us how, we just don't know what to say. Like we have to watch a lecture on YouTube to be able to say something that the person on the minbar is saying that he doesn't know what it means. He has heard from someone else, right? But I think one of the amazing things about Quran is this confidence it has. It's amazing that at no point it says, listen to me and don't listen to anything else. It says, no, think. This shows that this book and the person who wrote it were honest. I think this is one of the best signs of the honesty of our Prophet. That throughout his book, he's telling us to go read, go study. If I want to tell you how dishonest sometimes we are, how easily we accept things, even you wouldn't accept me. There are so many things I can't say. Okay, please recite the salawat. So now let's go back to where we were. We're at this stage that so far, so many people agree with us. What is that? That there is a first cause to the universe. Muslims agree on this, Jews agree on this, Christians, even agnostics, scientists like Einstein, many other scientists, some philosophers, that yes, definitely, there's more to this world than what the mind can grasp. Now, how do you take the second step? Now, in doing this, people are divided into two groups. It's like a person, all of us, we want to be intellectually honest. Excuse me. None of us want to believe in something which is wrong, right? But there's two ways of going about this, or at least two ways are common. There are some people who say, okay, this part is known that there is a first cause, but stepping any further, you're going into a dangerous zone, right? So in order to avoid believing in wrong propositions, in order to avoid making mistakes, in order to avoid having wrong beliefs, stay where you are. Don't go further. And this is the attitude of the agnostic, this is the attitude of a scientist who believes that there may be something more, but says, okay, this bit is easy to accept. If I want to go further, how do I know where to go? Is it Islam? Is it Christianity? Is it Judaism? Which one? So it says in order to make sure I'm avoiding believing in any wrong belief, I stop right here. Then there are other people who say our duty to honesty, if we want to be intellectually honest, our duty is not to just avoid error. Our duty is to make sure that if there is some truth out there, we make our best effort to get it. Do you see the difference here? So there's one group who say, I don't want to make a mistake. There may be some truth out there, but the damage of believing in something wrong is more than finding that truth. So I stay right here. But the religious mindset says that, well, if there is a truth out there, it may be so important, it may be so significant that it's worth risking finding it, and maybe on the way you may have some wrong beliefs. Let me give an example that makes this clear. Some of you who have gone hiking or mountain climbing know that sometimes it gets very difficult to find the way. You may have even found yourself going for hours and then finding yourself back in the first place. So now imagine you've gone hiking, it's a foggy day, it's very cold, you can't really see your way. Now you have two options in front of you. You say, if I go in this foggy day where I can't see anything, there's a high chance that I will get lost. Right? Because it's a foggy day. You can't see anything. Even when it wasn't foggy, you would go and you would get lost sometimes. So the first attitude that wants to avoid making errors would say, I'll just stay here because if I go anywhere in this foggy day, I will get lost. But there's a second attitude. The second attitude says that if I stay here, I'll definitely freeze to death. Of course, if I go, I may get lost, but that's the only chance I have at finding my way back, of going back home. Of course, there is a chance of making mistakes, but this is the only option I have. What can I do? Stay here and freeze to death? So now let's go back to our question. Should we, as honest, intellectual people who want to have rational lives, find it our duty to avoid making errors, or find it our duty to find the truth? What I'm trying to do is to show you that taking this leap, or at least being ready to consider it, doesn't make you any less rational. So the person who says that I'm with you up to here, the rest of it is you, go on, that person is not any more rational. Even if they say that, well, all of your actions of trying to go further, because we all believe that there's a first cause. Now you want to go further, you want to go in a foggy day and find your way. This is only out of a hope. This is only based on a hope. It's not really rational. Well, then you could go to them and say, the reason you're stopping there in that foggy day and not trying to find your way, that's out of fear of getting lost. So if he says what we're doing is out of hope, then we say what you're doing is out of fear. So there's no way that either of them could say that you're any less rational or I am more rational. And this is very important, because as people who want to have faith, who want to be religious, we should make sure that we don't give any excuse to the atheist to claim that we are not being rational. So if we are aware of this, it becomes clear that up to this point, nothing we've done is less rational. Please recite the salawat. So now, let's say that among those two options, it's that foggy day. By the way, are you guys following me? Is it clear? Like, I have no problem like repeating myself. Everything's clear? Okay. We're on a mountain in a foggy day, and I hope that you were convinced that it's better to be among those who say that even if it's foggy, I will still make this leap and try and go find my way. Because if I stay here, I'll definitely freeze to death. So now we're trying to go and find our way. What is the way? What is the next thing to do? We've already accepted that an action is better than lack of any action. So trying to find a faith is perhaps better than being an agnostic. And I'm not trying to sell you this easily, right? We can argue this, but just for the sake of time. But now, which faith do we go for? Which lifestyle do we choose? There are so many people who say that I can take your hand in this foggy day and I can take you home. Christianity says, come, I'll show you the way. Islam says, this is the way. Judaism says, this is the way. The Buddhist says, this is the way. So on that foggy day, who do you trust? And please bear in mind that if you're born in a Muslim family, it's very easier to trust Islam. It's very difficult. It comes with so many consequences to, for example, go with Jesus, Prophet Jesus, and leave the Prophet of Islam there. Right? But that doesn't change, that shouldn't affect our thinking. We want to be honest. That's what our Prophet wants from us. So what do we do? There's this verse in the Quran which is very beautiful. It says, talking about the judgment day, it says, on this day we'll call out all people with their imams. Imam basically means their leader, the person that was guiding them, right? It says that on that day, every person will end up with the one they were following, right? Truly following, by the way, right? Loving doesn't count, I think. Loving or like naming your son the name of that leader, these things doesn't count, like truly following, right? If we take this into account, that on the day of judgment, every person will end up where their leader is. So the question in a way becomes, the question of who do I want to trust becomes, who do I want to end up with? Who do I want to be similar to? Right? And you might say, well, you can't mention a verse of Quran in our discussion. Dude, that's just like not cool. And I'll be like, thank you, that's a very good point, but I have a backup plan. The example itself makes it clear. It's a foggy day. Someone's holding your hand to take you somewhere. Where will you end up? Wherever they go. Right? It doesn't really need Quran to tell us. I just mentioned the Quran because it makes me more professional on the member. Right? And of course, there are so many people who wouldn't accept it otherwise. So it's a foggy day. You'll definitely, if you want to trust, like there are these people holding their hands saying, come, let me take you to your house, to where you parked your car. What happens if you select any of them? Well, you'll end up wherever they go. So now the question becomes this: who do you want to end up with? Who do you want to trust in this journey? Now this bit is very beautiful, yet very tricky. I'll say the beautiful bit first. You know, I love studying philosophy. I read the works of any thinker there is. Anyone who says, I have a thought that is worthy of being read, I try to go read it, right? I haven't done all of it because I still haven't had that much time, but I'm very honest. And often what is very interesting is that not just read the philosophical works of a philosopher, but also their biography, right? There are philosophers I love whose thoughts really made me change and think. But then when you look at their lives, you see that guy is as confused as I am, you know? You see people, like for example, for many people, their intention to study about the religion is the rumors or the attacks they hear on the religion. Right? Your religion is against women, your religion is a violent one, your religion is male-based, male-dominant, all of this. They hear this, and of course, being genuine, honest people, they don't like violence, they don't like the mistreating of women, so they go on a search, and sometimes they're convinced by philosophers that Islam is wrong. But what they don't realize that some of these philosophers, you read their lives, betraying the first wife, going for the second one, betraying her with the third one, going for the fourth. Honestly, I'm not kidding. And let me be honest, any of this doesn't for me change their arguments. If their argument is good, I take it. But at the same time, I know this person seems to be confused in his life. Great arguments, I'll take those. But on a foggy day, is this the person who I want to trust? The person who's betraying his wife, and some of them is way worse than this, you know? I have so much respect for their thought, but their life, like, dude, I want someone who can like help me be at peace, to take my stress away. You have more stress than me. Or this other one really broke my heart. This one was doing really well, but then committed suicide in his 30s. I'm like, I don't want to commit suicide in my 30s. If I take your hand, that's the way you're going. Or there's this great author, you read his book, fills you with passion, and then you hear that in his 40s he killed himself. I'm like, dude, this didn't even convince you. Someone should have given him his own book. Although, to be honest and to be fair, sometimes like I listen to my own talks and get inspired sometimes. Because truth is very slippery, you know? Truth, good messages are very slippery. You can't say, I have it now, it'll be with me forever. It's like, sometimes you have to keep reminding yourself. So anyway, back to where we were. Foggy day, who do you want to trust? Many philosophers you see confused in their life. And then you go to the minbar, it's probably Muharram or Ramadan or Eid al-Qadir, and then the person mentions one story from the life of Imam Ali, and you're like, wow, this person is someone I want to trust. One story, amazing. Imam Ali has been stricken by this guy, Ibn Muljam, but Imam Ali tells to his family that I don't want any fear in the heart of this person. Justice will be done to him, but go and give milk to him. And don't treat him in a way that would make him scared. No matter what's going to happen to him in the way of justice, but till that time, I don't want him to be in a state of fear. Go and give milk to him. And you see like, well, this really looks like a kind of person that you want to trust, right? If there's really anything out of this universe, if there's really something more, and if there's a way of connecting to it. So we all agreed there's something more, and now there's this person who says, I have a way of connecting to it. In this foggy day, I'll take your hand, and this is who I am, you know? You'll end up like me. By the way, that's at best. At best, it will be something similar to Imam Ali. And I'm like, well, I'll take that. This was the beautiful thing. But it's not going to end there, right? This would be any other lecture. The talk would end here, and we would all go home proud, right? We have such a beautiful religion, beautiful leaders. That's amazing. Let's go home. But there's this thing inside me that makes me want to continue, and that is maybe there's someone out there who takes this next thought as well. If you haven't taken this next thought, this would be good for you. But if someone has this next extra bit of thought, they would be left alone. So this part is for you. You probably won't mention it to your friends, but because I feel you, this is for you. Okay, that story from Imam Ali is very beautiful. But aren't there so many beautiful stories from Jesus? Aren't there beautiful stories, let alone Jesus, from Mother Teresa? Have you read her books? It's amazing. It's amazing what she did. You know, she went to the poorest parts of this country and showed love to people whose own family would leave them. People with horrible skin diseases that you and I wouldn't look at them for more than a few seconds. This person would go with the sisters who helped her with trolleys. You know, like in that city, if you didn't want to there's so much population, the city is so poor, people would just leave their family members in the street. So she says, as we're walking in the street, we'd see people left alone there to die. Even worse than the way we treat animals. But she would go, pick them one by one, take them to their places, wash their wounds, kiss their feet, and tell them that they are loved by God. There were some of them who would tell these sisters that I'm about to die. Why do you even care about me? There are so many people. Go save them. I'll die now. My disease is so bad. And the sisters would say, we want you, as someone created in the image of God, to die with dignity. We're going to die in a few hours, we don't care. We want you to die with love and dignity. So if that story from Imam Ali is beautiful, this story is also beautiful. What do we do? Please recite the salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I've digged myself a very deep hole. If I don't manage to answer this question, I will be in a huge trouble. But being me, I'm not going to answer this question. I want to say that this question is wrong in the first place. I think we all got it wrong that the God of Judaism and Christianity and Islam are different gods. When I study the life of Jesus, I see that Jesus was known by his followers as a Jew. Jesus never said, I am going to start a new religion. In the same way that our prophet never said in the Quran that I'm starting a new religion. You all have these apps. Bring it for me, any verse that the prophet says that I'm starting a new religion. What does he say? He says, I'm following the religion of Abraham, of Ibrahim. Who was Ibrahim following? Nuh. When the Quran is talking about Nuh, it says, وَمِنْ شِيَعَتِهِ Ibrahim. There is nowhere that prophet said, I am starting a new religion, or that I am bringing a new understanding of God. And the same is about Jesus. You know, when they tried to kill Jesus, or who they thought Jesus is based on what narration you believe in, on the cross they put the King of Jews. So even the people who thought they're killing Jesus, they thought they're killing a Jew. He never said, I am bringing a new religion, as if I am another person in that foggy day. Remember the example, that foggy day on the mountain, Jesus never said, I am an alternative to Moses. He says, Moses was here to help you, he's not here, I'm here on his behalf. And Moses was there on the behalf of the previous one, all the way to Abraham, all the way back to Noah. And our prophet was the same. Go and search when the term Christianity started. For decades after Jesus, Christians were still known as Jews. It's only when the message spread and there were non-Jews who came across this message, they liked it, but because they were not Jews before, they thought, well, we need an identity. So Christianity as a term was started. So for me, if the atheist comes and says, you don't believe in the God of all these religions, say, stop right there, who said so? I love the God of Judaism. I love the God of Christianity. When I do my sajdah, honest to God, I don't feel like I'm doing sajdah to a God who's been introduced only 14 centuries. I take pride in doing sajdah to a God who has been worshipped from the beginning of mankind's consciousness. And it changes your whole way of not just looking at your own God, but also as your fellow members of faith. We may have certain differences, but our God is the same. Just think about the time before our prophet. Christianity was the only way to worship God. The only true way. And of course, Islam came not as an alternative, but to strengthen it. It says, I'm here to verify what's in your books and be a reminder. So someone might say, why do we even need this religion? Everything's there in Christianity. I'm saying, dude, you're still thinking different religions. This is not something else that you would say, why would I need this? Take this as a reminder. There's someone coming, that's great, let's keep that, and I'm with you, and I may have some things to add. It's just like extension of that. And oh my God, I wanted to talk about this, and we were reciting Ziyarat Waris, and I was like, the answer is there. Assalamu alayka ya waritha Adam safatillah. Assalamu alayka ya waritha Nuh nabiyillah. It mentions all the previous prophets. Where does it say that we are an alternative? It says Musa Kalimullah, Isa Ruhullah. We believe in all of that. So at that foggy day on the mountain, there's basically one hand there, and that's the hand of God. and his prophets, who all came to say the same thing, that there is one God. And that's why the Prophet said in the Quran that let us all come under this banner that there is one God and no one but Him. So we accepted that trying to find the truth is better than stopping in order to avoid error. We said, let's go and find the truth. Who do we trust? Someone that we want to end up with. We heard the story of Imam Ali, of Prophet, we were impressed. We heard the story of Jesus, we were impressed. But that doesn't confuse us. They're both in the same team. If you accept Islam, you've accepted Jesus as well. Then you can hear the stories of Mother Teresa and be proud of Jesus and be proud. They're all doing it under the name and for the love of God. So on that fucking mountain, we'll take the hands of prophets of God and we will be proud. And it really breaks my heart sometimes when I hear Muslims rejoicing when they hear churches are being closed. You think when the church is closed, people are going to worship and come to our mosque? They'll go to a pub. Isn't it at least better that there are people who are worshiping the same God as you? We may have our differences. So if a church turns into a pub or something else, we shouldn't be happy as Muslims. At the end of the day, today we're at this day and age where faith in God is being attacked. Still, people are in Shia Sunni divisions. I'm not even going to talk to them. But if you are thinking Christian, Muslim, we're all on the same team. We're all on the team of God. And this is what the Prophet says. Let us all come under the banner that there is no God but God. And the reason that we follow Imam Ali, we follow the Prophet, we follow this, is because this is Christianity and more. Honestly, this is the same thing and more. So why not? What are you going to lose? Let's end it at that high note. I think that's a good way to end. Please recite salawat. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد وعلى أصحاب الحسين. The narrations say, فلما لم يبق معه إلا أهل بيته خرج علي بن الحسين. When there was no one left from the companions and the ashab, and the only ones left were the Bani Hashim, Ali ibn al-Husayn left the tents. وكان من أصبح الناس وجها وأحسنهم خلقا. And he was among the best of people in his akhlaq and in his looks. فاستأذن أباه في القتال. So he went to Imam Hussein. He says, "Oh father, will you give me permission now will you give me permission to go and fight for you, for the truth? When Qasim went to ask for permission, Imam Hussein hesitated. He said no. It took a lot of efforts from Qasim to convince Imam Hussein. But when Ali Akbar wants to get permission, Imam Hussein right away says yes. But don't let this think that it was easy for him to say yes. ثم نظر إليه نظرة آيس. He looked at his son with the looks of someone who doesn't have any hope of seeing the sun again. وأرخى عينيه وبكى. The Imam started crying. Some narrations say he would even shake. His body would tremble. Some narrations say as Ali Akbar left the Imam couldn't stand on his place. He would keep sitting, standing up, moving his place. He couldn't see his son going to the battlefield. ثم قال اللهم اشهد فقد برز إليهم غلام أشبه الناس خلقا وخلقا ومنطقا برسولك. Oh God, be witness that a person has went to the battlefield who was this most similar person to the Prophet, not just in his looks but also in his akhlaq and the way he spoke. وَكُنَّا إِذَا اشْتَغْنَا إِلَى نَبِيِّكَ نَظَرْنَا إِلَيْهِ. And whenever we missed the Prophet, we would look at him. He was so similar to the Prophet that whenever we missed our grandfather, we would look at Ali Akbar and feel like the Prophet's with us again. Now this person's going to the battlefield. فتقدم نحو القوم فقاتل قتالا شديدا وقاتل أعظم القتال. And he went to the battlefield and he did an impressive fight. Some books say that he was better than anyone else who went before him. And then the arrow came. And then the next arrow came. I honestly can't say what happened. It's very difficult to even read. But when he lost his hope, of going back, he says, Ya abata alayka minni salam. And when Imam Hussein heard this, he knew it's over. He knew this is the last time Ali Akbar is going to say salam to him. And then Ali Akbar says, Hada jaddi uqra'uka salam. I can see the Prophet and he is saying salam to you, ya father. پیکرت مانند تسبیحی است که از هم وا شده. پیکرت مانند تسبیحی است که از هم وا شده. تیغ و تیر و نیزه روی بیتت جا شده. The poet breaks the heart. He says, your body is like a tasbih, whose each bead is at a different place. like a rosary bead, that each bead has been separated. پیکرت مانند تسبیحست که از هم وا شده، تیغ و تیر و نیزه روی بیتت جا شده. طعنه و زخم زبان قد تو را خم کرده است، طعنه و زخم زبان قد تو را خم کرده است. قد تو حالا شبیه مادرم زهرا شده. فجاء الحسين عليه السلام حتى وقف عليه. Imam Hussein goes to him, stands in top of his body, but each part of the body is at a different place. ووضع خده على خده ما أجراهم على الله وعلى انتهاك حرمة رسول الله. He puts his head on the head of his son and he says, oh God, how dare him, how dare them do this to us, how dare them disrespect the Prophet and his family like this. على الدنيا بعدك العفا. Oh Ali Akbar, woe to this world after you. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون.
يا حسين يا حسين